This is the story about how one game master learned a little bit more about encounter balance. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, so this is a recap of last night's game session for my campaign, The 8 Pillars of Death. Now, I told you guys before how we had that last week. Not all my players showed up. We were down to 2 players. Well, this week, one of those players we had killed off who didn't show up. So we're down to 4 players in the campaign as of right now. And one of them couldn't show up. I knew ahead of time, and he was here the previous week. He said, "Hey, I'll go ahead and play without me, and that's fine." So 3 players showed up. 4th player didn't. His player was played by my wife, which the NPC was already controlled by my wife also. So she was controlling 3. I said a few times, why don't you let somebody else control one of those 2 so you're not controlling 3 characters through encounters and things like that. And she's like, no, it's fine. And nobody else insisted on controlling a character, so we just ran with it. But so the session started where it left off before. The players had been trudging up into the mountains through a valley, and it had started to rain. It was muddy. They could see that there were footprints of different types of creatures, and they saw a dead tree. They were starting to see some more vegetation, and then they found a cave opening with some bushes on the outside, some foliage, and they decided to camp there for the night. Now, in my notes, I had written down that if the players decided to light a fire and not do anything about covering the cave entrance, then they were going to be ambushed by local orcs. So basically the players did that. They lit a fire, and that was that. And I hinted that there were things in the area with the footprints. And I gave them the dead tree out front if they wanted to try and bar off the entrance, or even the bushes they could have done something with. But they didn't. So there were things there they could have done. And I'm okay with how it happened. But the first encounter, there were 16 orcs that attacked. And the players on their night watch failed their perception check, so they actually got 2 spears into their leg. I believe it was their leg. And he woke up everybody. Needless to say, they fought and chased the orcs off, finished their rest the next day, tracked the orcs back to where their cave was. Now, the orcs' home was a 5-room cave, and it kind of snaked in and went up, and then there was a side room off of there. And in that cave, there were 21 orcs. There were 20 normal orcs, and then 1 chieftain who had a magic axe called the Screaming Battle Axe of Biaka. Now, both of these encounters took a tremendous amount of time. And what I learned in this, which is good, is that, hey, sometimes throwing huge numbers of monsters at your players slows combat down. Throwing harder monsters in lesser numbers is a better way to go about it. And so in the future, that's what I'm going to try and do a little bit more, unless it's a huge battle and something has a bunch of mooks and, something like that. But at the same time, I did want these mountains to feel like it was dragging on, like, oh, let's just get to the city. Let's just do this. You know what I mean? I kind of wanted it to drag on, and it did. So it kind of met my objective, but at the same time, I could tell maybe I did a little bit too much. I kind of didn't lose the players, but there was one point last night where I had taken a break and I'd come back, and one of them was still on his phone from the break because he was playing one of his apps. And, that was the only thing. But besides that, I think it was okay. Everyone seemed to have a good time. But anyways, so after the orcs, they were almost done with the orcs. 2 of the players were down, and the NPC was down. There were 2 people left. Actually, yeah, everyone was down except for our rogue, who was our newest player, and our dragonborn fighter. So we had a human rogue and a dragonborn fighter, actually a human assassin. And they had 3 orcs left. They'd already killed the chieftain, and they heard a noise behind them, and it happened to be dwarves coming to kill the orcs. And so basically we wrapped it up with the dwarves basically just executing the orcs, and they made a deal with the players that, hey, you guys can keep whatever you want here unless it's dwarven and unless it's gold. We're going to take all the gold. And the players were outnumbered and hurt, agreed. The dwarves also offered to take them to their castle, which the players found out this castle was a castle from 80 years prior, the last stand against the original 8 Pillars of Death. Now, that was my old family campaign I was running, and I had what I called the 8 Pillars of Death then. Same concept, different, though. Started in a different place, and they had different threats at that point. But anyways, that campaign never wrapped up, so this was my way, since my wife was in that campaign, to give her a little bit of closure and to find out what happened then. So that's what's going on. Well, the players relayed some information that, yeah, they've heard that the Cult of the Dragon's coming back, and that they've heard some funny things about that. And the dwarves said, oh, okay, and took them to their city. The king wanted to meet with the players. Now, this city is 100% dwarfs, no other race there. They don't mingle with the outside world. They are on the surface. They do have a level on the surface, but their homes and everything are underground. And to get to the king's area, the way I described it to the players was that they were led down a spiral staircase that seemed to go on forever. Then they went over a natural bridge to one side, and then walked down, and then another natural bridge back to the other side, and it felt like a maze, and that they couldn't tell if they were being led the long way to throw them off, or if this was the actual most direct way there. So they met with the king, and when they met with him, he basically told them what his warriors had told him. One of them was his daughter, which I didn't really tell the players that, but by her last name, it could, they could have figured it out. She never said, hey, I'm the king's daughter or anything like that. She actually was leading the warriors. She's a warrior herself. And so then the king basically told them that the 8 Pillars of Death are coming back. They've had a lot of activity between the Cults of the Dragon, and they've intercepted some stuff, and they believe the 8 Pillars of Death are coming back. Plus, history shows that this is exactly what happened last time over 80 years ago. And so he asked the players if they can deliver the king's seal, so letters, to the different rulers across the continent of this one continent. And the players accepted. And they should have, because it gives them some direction now. But they still had this NPC that needed to go to this one city. So one of the things the king did is he offered the reward up that NPC was going to give them, and said, I'll have someone take him, and I'll also have him take one of my king's seals to that elven city. So players were happy. They were also told they will be fronted money. Now, I didn't tell them how much yet. I told them they would get their money before they left, as well as the seals. Now, what I'm going to try and do, I want to actually type up the letter, do it in Photoshop, and then I actually want to make a seal and put it on there so that the players don't actually know what it says. And I actually want to do that because it'll leave it open to if the players actually pop the seal or not. I think that'd be kind of cool and neat if they do. But he did tell them what it was going to say. It's basically asking the rulers to meet up in the same place that they did 80 years prior to discuss an alliance between the armies of the continent. And that was in the Iceblade Kingdom, where these dwarves are, and to discuss basically the alliance and how they were going to handle this. And it's up to the players to get these seals to the different rulers. Now, this allows for a ton of stuff to happen. One, they're going to try to go to one city, and that could lead to all sorts of side quests and adventures. Then they're going to have to go to another city. So they're going to have a list of the kingdom. So I'm going to just say these are the 8 places you have to go, or however many. And if at any point I feel like it's dragging on, well, hell, I can always throw a wrench in that plan. I could have the seals taken away. Like, there's so many things I can do. So I love it. There's a lot of things that can happen there. But That's where we wrapped up the night. Now, I asked the players if they wanted to get any gear or things like that. I said if it's clothing related, none of it will fit them because I don't have any dwarves in the party. I said so it'll be double the price for them to make your stuff into or make armor for them, for example, or clothes, because they don't make clothes for humans and things like that. It's 100% dwarven population. I also said any weapons, you have to add price onto it because it's going to be a little bit longer in most cases. So, for example, a great sword and a great axe and things like that. I said you're going to want to pay a little more because you're going to want it your size. So that's kind of where I left that. And one of the players decided to get the orcish plate armor modified from 12 feet tall down to her 6'5" frame. Now, the other thing, so I got 3 players that are huge. You have Helena Goldana, who is my Tempest cleric. She's like 6'3" or something. Her strength is 20 because they're level 4. She actually put a couple points into that. I have a character named Urgot Groshok, who is a half-orc barbarian, and he also has a strength of 20. I have Kriv, who is a dragon. By the way, the barbarian's like 6'3" also. I have Kriv, who is a brass dragonborn fighter. He's about 6'5", 6'6". And then I have a rogue assassin human who I think is just under 6 foot or about 6 foot. So they tower over these humans, or I mean these dwarves. They're huge. This is a huge adventuring party. They're badass. Some of the other stuff I threw in there is that the half-orc that was traveling with the party was just stared down by the dwarves, and you could tell there was a lot of racism going on towards the half-orc. But yeah, so it was cool. But so now Helena's armor class, because she wears a shield, is going to be pretty good. In fact, I have it written down here: 18 without a shield, 20 with. The barbarian is a 17 because he has magic bracers of defense. Kriv is still about a 14 or 16. He hasn't done anything to improve that. However, he did mention his character might get more, might try to buy something in the town that would bump his armor. So I'm starting to deal with some characters who are pretty good defensively. But yeah, so anyways, that was our campaign session last night. The next session, I'm not going to ruin it in this video. I'll do another video sometime here soon. But the next session, oh, I got a surprise for the players. It's going to right off the start. Boom. So anyways, we'll see what they think of that. But yeah, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy hearing about my recaps. If you like it, let me know. Give me a like, a little thumbs up or whatever, and share it. Maybe it'll give somebody some inspiration for their games, or I don't know. Maybe they can learn from my mistake of throwing 36 orcs at a party, and basically that being almost the full night of 2.5, 3 hours. In the future, like I said, I would probably just beef them up and do it that way. But anyways, again, hope you liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Leave a comment below if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or maybe you got an idea for something I could do in my game. I'm always mining for ideas, so would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.